Welcome back to another episode of Obsessed with Death. Thank you for continuing to listen and support the podcast. Today's episode is with stand-up comedian, actor, author Doug Stanhope. He is a comic that I've been following and a fan of for as long as I can remember. He's one of those comics that I don't know is necessarily for everybody, but that's why I love him. He's just so genuinely himself. And I think that's what comes through in his comedy. And we had a really great conversation. I thought this was going to be more of a, me asking questions and him just sort of answering. But I honestly maybe asked one question. It was just a great conversation for about an hour talking about death. Two dudes who had a lot more in common than I realized. It was a ton of fun. I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. And please continue to support the podcast. Tell a friend, spread the word, share on, social media. All that stuff helps a ton. But either way, enjoy another episode of Obsessed with Death. The episode usually starts with the same question, and I'm kind of curious to get your answer on this as well. What is your relationship with death like? Do you think about it a lot? Is it something that concerns you? Do you feel like you have a relationship with death?
I don't know if you'd call it a relationship, but it's without question, daily and multiple times daily. Yeah. I did what I call 30 days in the hole. It was basically, I was trying to quit smoking. This is probably 10 years ago. I would podcast it for at least 10 minutes every day to update people on my not drinking and smoking for a month.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I noticed was, wow, I'm not waking up thinking about death every single morning. Like the first thing.
Yeah.
Crack of dawn was, oh my God, is this still fucking happening? Is this life still going on? How long can this? Life is short. Bullshit. Life takes for fucking ever. I think it's probably because I was always, up until a year and a half ago, I was a heavy smoker, and I've always been a booze bag. So, and as those habits kind of trailed off and were no longer the Don Draper Mad Men norm, everyone just constantly in your head. Oh, you're going to die. I mean, God, look at how much you smoke. It's sad. You're going to die. And so you get that reinforcement. Even if you weren't thinking it yourself, you're going to start.
Yeah, I feel like, just from older interviews that I've listened to of yours, certain people would sort of start the conversation on just the way that you lived your life. And it seemed like you were living a life where you didn't think about or care about death. But I always kind of felt like it must have been the opposite, just because of kind of what you just said. If you're doing these things, I used to be a smoker. Every time I'd light a cigarette, I think, this is killing me. This is how I'm going to die.
Yeah. And they didn't hear that. Don Draper didn't hear that. Your grandpa didn't hear that. He smoked fucking 4 packs of Chesterfields a day.
Yeah.
And people die younger smoking and probably boozing, but not so dramatically the way that once everyone, there was a period, it's coming back, it seems. I don't know. I've been to Skankfest a couple of times and I went, I think the fucking 80s are back. And everyone smokes cigarettes now. I finally fucking quit. And everybody's smoking cigarettes. People that you see smoking a cigarette, and you're just doing that because you think it looks good. Like you're like a 13-year-old who's doing it to be cool. There's no way you should have a cigarette hanging out of your mouth. It's like when John Oliver says "fuck." It's so clumsy and forced. Just because he's on HBO, they have to throw fucks into his monologue, and he can't say it. His mouth puckers like an asshole. Fucking things.
I haven't made it out to a Skankfest yet. I definitely would like to eventually. And for everything I've heard about it, it seems like it's just a new type of human being exists at those comedy festivals.
Yeah, it's the juggalos without the fucking sticky soda hair in the morning.
Okay, so you quit smoking, and was that just because you were feeling like shit? Was that a death thing? I mean, what was really the thought behind quitting smoking?
It was a lot of that and spite. I was in Australia and I was very sick, and when even a light cold, the fucking cough. I mean, my cough was already so guttural. It was like just unlistenable on a podcast because it's just wet, gunky, fucking sounds like a coffee maker brewing, gurgling.
Yeah.
And I was coughing so bad. I couldn't get through jokes. I would have coughing fits. And it was Australia, so it's like $45, $50 a pack for cigarettes. And At one point, I had left my phone at a bar with the key to my apartment, and they dropped me off at the apartment, and I had to walk back up a hill. There's maybe 100 yards, but it was like pitched at, I don't know what degrees that is, but fucking steep for a smoker. And I maybe got 25 feet, and I was like gasping for breath, but I'm not getting oxygen, and I thought I'm going to fucking die right here on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I just gave a half a pack, or a pack and a half that I had brought into the country to my tour manager and said, yeah, I'm done. So spite helped a lot.
Spite is a good motivator for sure. In older interviews, you talked a lot about not going to the doctor. Was this like a motivation to get a checkup? Are you going to the doctor now? Are you concerned?
Yeah, I am. Just because this, again, I live in the middle of nowhere in Arizona.
Yeah.
And I found out this kid I knew when I was like 7, 8 years old from Tatnick Square in Massachusetts, Worcester. Like he's a doctor now, and he works up the street in Tombstone. And I thought that would be funny way to just, go reintroduce myself to him, is just schedule an appointment for a general, checkup, which I've never done in my adult life. I've only gone to the doctor when it was absolutely necessary. So that was fun. And I got blood work labs done and had some, basically pretty fucking good shape.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound too surprised, but I would imagine, were you surprised?
I was surprised. The only thing that was an issue was triglycerides. I had high triglycerides, but I was off the road. I had all the time in the world to fuck with my diet and do different things, and got that in order, and got on some statins, so my cholesterol is fine. Now I'm doing, but this year because I know him. I got I was already paying I think $10,000 a year, $9,500 for insurance, and I was still paying. I was paying deductibles. I'm like, what the fuck? So this year I got the premium insurance. I got the nuts. So I'm going for everything.
Good, man.
So many fucking. I literally ran out of blood last time I did labs.
You had to come back for a second round.
And so they're squeezing my hand like this, like there was an invisible tennis ball in it to get the last vial, 10 vials of blood. When you have because my liver was in great shape when it came to enzymes, but that doesn't necessarily mean your liver's good. So we went back and did other things. Then they go, okay, you have some liver damage, but not bad, and it is a little bit fatty, but nothing to worry about too much. Too much iron in your blood, and you know how they cure it? Bleeding, just like the fucking Middle Ages. He told me. Shit. Donate blood twice. I think you can only do it every 2 months because that's the only way to get iron-rich blood out of your system.
Sure. Yeah, it's like giving yourself an oil change, basically, right? And
I'm really going to try to get leeches just for a podcast episode. I want to apply leeches, and I just don't know where to start. I guess Google is where you start with anything.
Yeah, you could probably get some delivered, I would imagine. Does that not blow your mind a little bit? The type of life you were living, I would be terrified to go to the doctor. I think everyone has fear of going to the doctor, but Do you think you're just one of these people who could just live that kind of life and it's just genetics and you're just good?
No, I honestly was expecting the worst.
Yeah.
And I was welcoming the worst because the worst gets you out of so much shit.
Okay.
You can use the worst. I used to say that in my act years ago, that the only reason I'd go to a doctor is if I was trying to get out of something I promised I'd do when I was drunk. Like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll go to the wine country with my in-laws for fucking anniversary. And, oh, did I say that? Hang on, let me go do some blood work. And I know they're going to find something so fucked up that I'm going to have to check into a hospital immediately. And I had that mindset going in. Like, oh, this will give me an excuse to not go back on the road. And I don't want to write a new hour.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot to that, right? And a lot of the times it's people finding you're using it as an excuse to get out of stuff where other people would use those things as an excuse to not go to the doctor. It's great that you're doing well.
It's over Zoom, but I would guess that you couldn't be more than 41, but I'd guess 39.
36.
All right.
I'm going to be 37 next month, so you're pretty close.
You're way too young, even though you're not like an Adonis by any means, but you're way too young to have started a podcast called Obsessed with Death, even though I remember like coming up on 33 being obsessed with, I thought I'd probably die at 33.
Yeah, it was unhealthy for a while. I was thinking about it way too much, to the point where I could tell I was like bothering people by wanting to talk about it so much. My friends were open to the conversation, but every time we'd hang out, I'd be like, I'd have something death related. I was in a parking garage with a friend the other day. We pulled into the parking garage and I go, do you ever just think about this entire thing collapsing immediately as soon as you pull? Like, I don't know why my brain just goes there. And she just looked at me like, I would never think of that. That would never cross my mind.
All I think about, just driving down a 2-lane highway, getting from rural Arizona to the airport. I'm like, what's stopping a head-on? There's like 2 feet that's stopping a head-on collision. And how many millions of miles have I driven where I'm overdue? Like statistically, if I talked to an insurance guy and said, listen, how overdue am I to be killed in a car wreck?
I mean, I would assume most comedians who did a lot of, road work and drove to gigs have somehow defied the odds for sure. Yeah, you always see like that statistic where they're like, if you're scared of flying, the closest you come to death is the drive over there. And you're just, and like that stuff is supposed to make you feel better. But anytime I get on a plane, I know for sure this is going to be the plane that crashes.
Actually, I never really worry about planes.
Yeah.
I worry about not getting served a drink quickly enough on a plane, but I'm not scared. But the driving, when someone else is driving, and this has grown gradually over the years, but to the point where I can be just absolutely about ready to scream petrified when someone's about to go through a green light, and I can see when you're on one of those 2 lanes where, okay, you see this light green for about 2 minutes before it's a 55 mile an hour, but I know that going through the red light, someone is not paying attention because it's out in the middle of the desert and it's easy to just space out. Someone's going to crash into me, and I stomp on imaginary brakes in the passenger side or the back seat. And I fucking caught it once. Chaley, my tour manager, would go fucking just calm down. And at least twice I've gone red light to the fucking Uber driver who was about to blow through a fucking red light. Like, oh, and I go, see, Chaley, I'm not fucking crazy.
This is why you're still alive. I'm telling you, the anxiety and that fear is what I'm telling you is what keeps you alive. I could say the same for me. I feel like there have been moments in my life where I didn't do a thing, or I was doing the speed limit or whatever. I guarantee you, these are the things that keep us alive, especially in like car, any sort of travel. especially in the car. I mean, it's insane that the fact that we get into these things and people are, you go 100 miles an hour and you just trust everybody around you to not kill you. It's crazy.
I think the airplane thing is where you go, oh, I would only die. A car accident, I could have a compound fracture.
Yeah.
My bone is coming through my fucking leg, and I'm so claustrophobic. I'm trapped in there with my fucking bones coming through my body, and I have to wait for the jaws of life, and I can't get a drink.
There needs to be an emergency drink in the car just in case your bones snap.
I would, especially in the UK where the elevators are so tiny. They're like fucking Doctor Who phone booths that I would make sure to have a fucking bar of Xanax on me in case I ever get trapped in an elevator. I could fucking chew that up. He's shaking his maraca right there at the desk for those listening.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you, man. I mean, it's just, I mean, I've gone to therapy for it. The podcast has helped me a ton. It really does help to find other people that are willing to talk about death. And like, if I could get an hour once a week.
I didn't say yes to this podcast quick enough when I read the title.
I think your exact response was, yeah, I should probably do that. I think that was your response, which was an incredible response.
That's when I was just chewing through my own hand going, why didn't I think of that for a fucking podcast subject?
I mean, please, I would love to listen to you do an hour on your podcast and talk about death with whoever. By the way, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, so if you ever need, a buddy to come talk death with, I'd be more than happy to. I'm curious. I know you've talked about this in your comedy, and I know, you've talked about it on shows and stuff, but there is this story about your mom and how she took her life with your assistance at home. And I mean, we don't have to get super into it because there's so many outlets for people to get like a really great version of the story. But I would regret not at least bringing it up and just asking you about it. But more in the sense of like the backstory is like sort of what I explained. Your mom was sick. She decided she wanted to end things on her own term. You helped her do that.
She was in hospice care. She was COPD and fucked heart. Just every part of her was falling apart. So it wasn't a sad suicide. It was hey, let's cut to the chase suicide. Yeah,
which I mean, nowadays the assisted suicide is a thing that's sort of happening all over the world, and there's different programs and there's different ways of assisting in suicide for people. To the point where if you just are depressed and you don't want to go on living because of your level of depression, there are places that will assist you in suicide for that. So first of all, your mom was, way ahead of, the curve on the assisted suicide. So, all the credit to her for that.
For legal reasons, I just say that I bar backed the suicide. I didn't assist in any way other than to bring cocktails to her bed while she was taking whatever pills those were.
Yes, absolutely. But I guess what I'm curious just about now is sort of looking back on that. That was, 20 years ago at this point, over 20 years ago.
It was 2008, so about 16 years. Yeah.
I mean, just looking back on that, has your perspective changed at all on that situation? Is there anything you would have done different in that situation?
No, and that's a thing. I've always been really good with other people dying. It just came up again where I love the idea of doing comedy hospice.
It's on my list of questions. Comedy hospice. When are you going to start that?
I don't know. It just came up again. I thought we should do this. I was on a live feed or something, or saying, we should do this as a podcast instead of, I was actually thinking of doing it live in hospices, but no one I met that had anything to do with actual hospice care bit at the idea of
really,
my sense of humor doesn't really travel, but I can see a lot of people die and go, hey, I want Stanhope or someone like him by my bedside because this nurse keeps talking to me like I'm a toddler and I'm sick of it and I want to have cocktails. I want to turn off my oxygen and smoke cigarettes and I want to hear a bunch of dick jokes and fist fuck jokes until I die. And I could provide that. And I know people who would, just like they used to do comedy defensive driving, I could do comedy hospice and bring a stable of comedians that are the most dark, crude person I'd want next to me when I'm fucking passing a fucking lung.
I mean, it's like Cameo, only for hospice. I think it's genius. I mean, especially nowadays with FaceTiming and Zoom, it's not like you wouldn't even necessarily have to be there, but a family member could just set up a computer. They could be in a bed and you could talk with them and roast them and do whatever you want. I legitimately think you should. This should be something that you should do.
You know, I'm trying to remember where this came up in the last week, where like a perfect opportunity to start this with. I was doing some telemarketing, after the fact telemarketing to upsell people who bought my book off my website, and then we drunk dial them and try to get them to Venmo us more money for silly fucking add-ons.
I saw the Instagram lives. Yeah,
I think it might have been that was someone that had cancer, and I'm like, see, this is why we should fucking.
I mean, at least your people that are fans of yours, I understand your thought process of like, my comedy's not for everybody. That's understandable. But if so, I would think if you did bring it up enough, or you created an outlet for people to reach out to you, your fans, especially the ones that are, close to death, I think they would probably, some would have some interest in that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would think. Did you have some kind of like something wrong with you? Were you morbidly obese? Where did you start thinking you were going to die?
My brain. It's my brain. There's something wrong with me, and it's my brain. My brain is just uncomfortable with death and thinks about it just in time.
What about other people's death?
You know what? I don't know. I've unfortunately had 3 close friends I've known for 20 plus years, all die within the last like 18, 19 months.
I thought you were going to say 3 parents. I've had 3 parents die in the last.
My both of my parents are still alive. My mom should have died like 9 times already. I don't know how she hasn't died yet. I think she's going to outlive at least me at this point. But I've had some close friends die. And yeah, I mean, of course, it was not an enjoyable situation, but it didn't like wreck me. It didn't ruin my life. I was still able to go to work and function. And I don't know if that was therapy. I don't know if that was, I'm coming up on 60 episodes of the podcast. I've been doing this for a little while. I've talked about death a lot. I think it helps, but to answer your question, I mean, there's a lot wrong with me. And one of those things is I just can't stop thinking about it. We're talking about driving and, getting in a parking garage. And I mean, I'm scared of my fucking oven. Like I turn my oven on and I'm like, the thing's going to explode one of these times. When I turn it on, I won't stand in front of it.
I have massive explosion fear myself. Anything that could blow up. Including balloons. I have an irrational fear of balloons being blown up. Come on, do that somewhere else.
The what's it called? The gas grills with the
propane.
I can't go near a propane tank.
No, fuck it.
Fuck that. I mean, just turning it on, I'm like, it's gonna explode. And I'm going to be standing right next to it when it happens.
I did DMT once when I was working on the Man Show.
Yeah.
And for days afterwards, when I'd go outside to smoke, I went out the back door. There was a giant generator the size of 2 dumpsters that would like loudly hum. And there was so much electricity in my brain for days after I did DMT that I couldn't make eye contact. I couldn't look at that thing because I thought I could make it explode with my mind. And I know that it was crazy, but it didn't make the fear go away.
I get it, man. I totally get it. The crazy, it's like, if I have friends over, I have to like pretend that I'm doing something as I turn the stove on. Cause I'm like, what if the door shoots off and takes my legs out. Like that can happen. And then I live alone. I live alone too.
What you're doing is good, and why comedy hospice would be good for me to do, because it would be like immersion therapy, where I'm great at other people dying. Like I thought, well, what if I started a service where like I'll put your dog down for you? Like if I was more of a celebrity, it'd be funnier. Like, oh, Doug Stanhope will do that for you because he really has no feelings. He's just thinks that everything is going to kill him.
Comedy hospice is genius. It's I mean, put me on the waiting list. I mean,
maybe I'll use you as a headhunter. You find me dying people. Oh, we found so much comfort in your podcast when Papa was about to leave us, and we listened to you, and it made it all okay. And then you go, oh, next time call Doug Stanhope, and he'll talk directly to Papa without that condescending tone.
I have had people on the podcast who are terminal, who have brain cancer, who are much closer to death than I am, and they're some of the funniest people. They have some of the best, the best sense of humor. It changes you, obviously, and they're the first one to make a joke about it and have the best sense of humor. I would imagine that when that time comes where it really is sort of the end and you're in hospice, why wouldn't you want to have, a couple of more laughs?
Right.
You're looking at it as the angle of comedy, but I mean, I think if family was there, it could be a healing thing for the family. I think there's a lot, it's a lot deeper than I think you're even giving yourself credit for.
The problem is I don't get around to doing shit. Sure. And once I find some complicated part of it, like usually it's legal, then I go, fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what legal loopholes you would have to jump around if a family member was just like, hey, here's the address to the hospice. If you could come down here, we'll hit we'll Venmo you, whatever, come hang out for an hour.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's the family, the one family member that didn't think it was funny that sues you, not the dead guy that was laughing himself into a grave.
The family would have to watch at least one of your specials, I think, before giving final approval. But again, I think if you found the right fan base for it, or at least it was just your fan base, I think it could really work. You're just going to get emails from me now constantly of just different ideas and just constantly just begging you to start doing this.
I don't know how many album titles have death in them of mine, but I know Die Laughing is one, Deadbeat Hero, Before Turning the Gun on Himself is, death is throughout. I think I have 3 or 4 different bits about suicide coming from different angles on different specials.
Yeah, there's a reason why I emailed you. I had a hunch you might be into this and that you might be perfect for the podcast.
How did you find me? Did you just Google search funny death?
Yes. I don't remember which. I was listening to an interview of yours. It may have been like an old Marin or something. I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I was listening to a recent episode of Marin. He just had Larry David on. And I was just going back and listening to old episodes, and I was listening to, I think it was like 2011, you were on with Marin, and it was a really great interview. And there wasn't really a lot of death talk, but you did mention your mom, and that's sort of what kind of got me thinking and realizing, this would probably be a great conversation. And just to go back to that quickly, again, we don't have to get into the story, but do you think your perspective on death changed from like that moment where you're with your mom and you're kind of, joking with her and roasting and having this moment to now? Do you think are your views or thoughts on death any different?
No, I don't think so. I dealt with enough death. I was there when my dad died in 2001. The one that was shook everyone up in our group was Hedberg, because that was a friend of ours. He was our age. He was 37 at the time. And, we weren't doing heroin, but we were doing everything else. It made everyone immediately mortal. I don't know if it changed my views on it, but I go, oh, okay, that could happen. That's in play now.
Was there a reason to not do heroin? I mean, besides the fact that your friends are dying from it, I mean, was that just something that was never really attractive to you?
Yeah, I was obviously, but needles was one thing.
Yeah,
I have enough joys in the world of narcotics. Like, okay, I don't need to expand my resume. Like, I love hallucinogens. Coke I can use medicinally as a nice perk me up if there's a second show. But I've never been like a guy that needs more Coke. I was never Artie Lang driving to fucking Delaware in the middle of the night. No, if someone offered me a bump and I was in need, the same as a cup of coffee or a 5-hour energy drink, and alcohol and cigarettes. I didn't really need to expand that. No one really sang the praises of it. Heroin's the one thing that no one does openly, even in fucking my dark circles. No one's like, hey, you want to try some heroin?
Really?
They're always out. Like, I watch enough Intervention. Why? I mean, I would stock up on everything that I might need. Australia was so easy to quit smoking because their petty little fucking laws. You can only bring 2 packs of cigarettes into the country, and I was going to be there for 2.5 weeks. So that's the first day putting a set together. That I'll go through that 2 packs. So I never understood the mentality of even people do cocaine just very openly.
Heroin obviously was just terrifying to me. Somebody with my type of brain, I would assume I would die the first time I tried heroin. Like, I would be the guy who would overdose immediately from it, and that keeps me far away from it. Same with Coke. I'm like, I'm going to get the bad Coke. It's going to kill me, whatever. Quickly, you mentioned Artie Lang. I love Artie. I've been a fan of his for a very long time. Does it surprise you that Artie has outlived almost everybody that you would assume would have died after him? Is Artie ever? I mean, is he? Are you and Artie? Do you have the same genetics? Like, both of you should be dead.
First of all, I'm not anywhere in the same league as Artie.
No. I'm saying in the sense of like
down to only drinking as much as I drink, they'd go, you know what? He's pretty much clean and sober now.
I was saying you guys are similar in the sense of like this genetics where you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, no, you're good. You're basically good.
I don't know that they've said that to Artie. I
mean, don't have his medical records in front of you right now?
His nose collapsed into his head. I don't think we're probably getting the same diagnoses.
Sure. Okay, that's fair enough. I don't know. I love the guy, and I'm thrilled he's still alive. But he was one of those guys that always kind of blew my mind, where I couldn't believe. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
He's also a guy like fucking Johnny Depp. Like, those, when people are at a high enough pay grade, other people just like give them all the fucking drugs they need. They don't probably even know if they have high cholesterol or something that's going to be a comorbidity, as they say in the quarantines. They probably just, okay, we're going to just jack them up with fucking all the vitamin supplements and we won't tell them what it is. Hey, it's time for your morning shot. And they fucking, they're probably as the healthiest people in the world without even knowing it.
Yeah, that's true, right? I guess if you have the money and you get the right doctor, you just get whatever sort of steroid shot you need, and you just keep on going, and that keeps you alive. But I don't know. Again, it's like the guy running marathons drops dead at 40 from a heart attack, and people binge drink.
It's not Dr. Drew's not on that guy's podcast every Thursday.
Great point.
I'll write your prescription, Bert.
It's a great point. If only Dr. Drew was more involved, they would be much better off. You're thinking about death a lot. You've been to the doctor. I would assume that's sort of calmed the nerves a little bit. You're for your age, you're a healthy man, which is very exciting. But
hang on, it's not just being. It's not like I wake up with a fear of death. Yeah. It's more, almost a gambler's, like I said, a risk assessment where you go, okay, I'm really I'm wanting to enjoy not being on the road, but the fact that I tried to recreate COVID, because COVID was the best time of my entire life. Just knowing I had an excuse. I couldn't go anywhere. It's kind of the same when you get, snowed in somewhere and, well, we're all in this. We can't leave because the roads are closed.
Sure.
And it's not my choice. Sorry, work. Sorry, wife. Sorry, whatever responsibilities. I'm snowed in for a fucking year and a half. And it was gorgeous. And then I thought, I'm just going to recreate that because I feel like I squandered that time. Like there's so many things I could have done if I knew it was going to last that long. And then I get about 6 months in or 7 months in to go, and I got to get the fuck back on the road. I have no excuse to just be sitting here. But that gives you a lot more time to consider, okay, how long will I live? And if I'm going to live, do I have – I mean, I'd have to be one of those like penny pinching coupon clipping guys, which I'm kind of becoming, which is even more terrifying than dying. Is I know all about Safeway rewards programs. And
you're a points guy, though. I've heard you talk about you're a points guy.
Yeah, that's Delta. That's cool. That's travel points.
Sure.
I can get a lay-down seat all the way to fucking Finland. This is, I could save 35 cents on Sargento cheese.
It's pretty good cheese, though.
It is it's a quality cheese. The wife likes it. I make her eat it in moderation,
Sure. Yeah.
Squeezing every nickel out. And I love being cheap and frugal. Like I wish I was really, really broke sometimes where you go, I could be really that whole when they said like was it Brangelina, one of those ladies, they were saying this is how much poor people have to live on with food stamps, and she's like, I could eat on $25 a week. And everyone came down on her, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I could. That's the title of my last special. I shouldn't say new special because that's exactly why I titled it this, because it was fucking half of it's pre-pandemic, half of it's post-pandemic, and it's over a year old since I filmed it, so I'm just calling it Discount Meat. That's what I'm all about at Safeway. I'm known for being a frugal man at the Discount Meat. That's only slightly browned.
I do enjoy the image of just your glasses at the tip of your nose, just thumbing through the coupons as you look in the meat section.
Yeah, and I don't even care what.
There they are.
They're like the biggest fucking like stupid Dollar Tree thick reading glasses.
Hey man, whatever you got to do, whatever works.
What do you worry about as far as? Like my dad, I go through the litany of, my parents. My dad went mostly blind with glaucoma or cataracts. I can't remember. One eye was like dead, and the other one started to go, but he didn't want to get surgery on that one because he'd rather have half the vision than risk total blindness. And I'm like, oh man, that's where you start thinking like suicide. Do you think suicide as much as you do death?
Suicide. I mean, look, did I have a thought at some point this morning that, I should just kill myself? Yeah, I definitely had that thought at some point. And that
gets worse, by the way.
I can't wait.
That fleeting thought comes in fleets.
I woke up this morning. I do the thing you're not supposed to do and immediately check my phone. I start scrolling and I see a thing that I just go, I should just kill myself. And then you start the day. Then you get out of bed and you try and I don't know.
That's my biggest living without having comedians around me.
Yeah.
Like when you're on tour, you got your comedian friends with you. You just throw out, oh man, this is, and they're like, Dad, just shut up, you're being a fucking douche. And you go, oh, thanks. All I needed was someone to say, oh, shut up, you're being a douche. That's not a real thing. Yep. It's not a real concern. But when you're in the echo chamber of your own brains, oh yes, these are definite. I would definitely kill myself before I had fucking glaucoma.
Yes, for sure. I mean, if I got diagnosed with whatever and I had a year to live, I would probably do, the things you do when you find out, I would do, mushroom. I would do all the drugs. And then as soon as I ran out of things to do, I'd probably just kill myself, right? Like, I don't know what else you would do.
Yeah, I mean, I do have heroin that I always said I'll save till last. It's not addictive because it sucks.
My parents,
I don't even have a bucket list. I told Bingo this morning.
Okay.
Both of us talking about killing ourselves, you and I.
Yeah.
I told Bingo, I go, you know what? I would miss the most if I was on my deathbed. All the things I would miss is sleeping in. Like,
I get it. I not doing anything is what I think keeps me alive. The enjoyment of just doing nothing makes me way too happy, and I think kind of helps me not want to kill myself sometimes.
The problem is enjoying it. That's where I have the most problem because, like I said, quarantine. You had no choice.
Yeah. Oh, I was a mess during quarantine. I was not fun to be around. I was a nightmare.
You mean you let people around you?
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, I went like months where I was like, no one come fucking near me. I didn't want any of it. I was a nightmare.
I was not that guy. I've always been really put off by germaphobes.
Yeah.
Because I am a very unclean person. As I'm cooking for football or whatever, someone's coming over. I'm like, if John Taffer was watching me on fucking Bar Rescue,
you'd be shut down immediately.
Yeah, and no one's died. And I don't cross-contaminate with chicken, but still, I smeared some peanut butter on the toast, and then I licked the fucking peanut butter off the knife and reused the knife. Pick in someone's mouth, or you'd have been fucking killed by 1,000 whores at last call.
The amount of times I wash my hands while being around raw meat would just make anybody frustrated. I totally get it. I'm a nightmare with that stuff. I've gotten past it now. I don't even really think about it anymore. Was never really a germaphobe, but I also, like what you were mentioning before with my parents, I don't really think about like their issues becoming mine. Like, I think again, it's like I'm just so self-involved in like this whole death thing that I think whatever kills my parents isn't going to kill me. I'm going to have my own special death. Something totally different and new is what's going to kill me.
You're a unique snowflake.
It's consuming at times for
when
sure.
You watch what people do go through. I mean, I went through a place where I go, if I had to get fucking root canal, I'd kill myself. Just anything that's. I have overcome a fear of needles because of since quarantine and labs. I'm like, oh wait, this doesn't really hurt at all. I want to give more labs. Yeah, fucking jab me. I'm happy to do heroin now.
Yeah, I mean, I went through a period where I was going to the emergency room a lot, and I was getting stuck a bunch in IVs, and that sort of killed any sort of fear of the because I think they're going to get air in the vein and then it's going to kill me. I mean, wow. I think of everything. Right. But I mean, honestly, right now, my whole thing is just trying.
You haven't had a colonoscopy yet.
I'm not there yet.
I cut you off. Go ahead, finish.
No, but I mean, I sort of was going in that direction where it's like, I mean, I would get a colonoscopy tomorrow if they'd let me. I mean, I want to know. I want to know these things. I think about that.
But do you understand the beautiful rest you get? Have you had anesthesia yet?
Buddy, I broke my leg in September. I got a surgical infection 6 weeks later.
Oh no! And this is after you've already been a hypochondriac.
I mean, I couldn't be a worse person for this to happen.
Were you sitting there with both birds flying in the hospital bed going, I told you, motherfuckers! I told all of you and you made fun of me and now I have a staph infection!
There was a few people I would have loved to have just grabbed and shaked very hard for a few minutes.
Shookened is the word.
I wanted to shooken every person in that office. And it was a literal nightmare come true. I was immediately trying to get out of the first surgery. I told the surgeon, I was like, can't you just push my bones together and wrap it up and I'll just go home? We'll figure it out. Told me I had to have surgery. I had to. So I do it. And then, yes, the best sleep of my life. The anesthesia, you snap your fingers and it's over.
Yeah. And I asked him the first time when I had hernia surgery, I'm like, it's so weird. Like you sleep so quick and hard, but then you wake up that quick too. And they go, oh, no, we give you shots for that too. If we left you alone, you'd sleep here for 12, 16 hours. We have to give you a shot to get you the fuck out of here. And I'm like, oh, that's what you get when you have friends that are the actual anesthesiologists. They tell you the truth.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, what wasn't Michael Jackson was getting some form of that, right? Like just to sleep in general. I think that's what he was doing.
Yeah,
I get it. Yeah, I mean, I get it. But yeah, the short version is I got a surgical infection. I ended up having to be in the hospital for a week because they were afraid that the infection was going to get worse and go to my bone. I was going to get a bone infection. It was a literal nightmare. I had to have a second surgery where they had to remove all of the metal they had just put in my leg because it was all covered in bacteria and everything was infected. And so I got 2 beautiful, naps via anesthesia, which was lovely. But yeah, just the absolute worst. I literally just started walking like a normal human again like 2 months ago, and it happened in September.
That's weird because my next question was going to be, how close have you come to all your fears happening? And I guess that's it, I'm guessing.
I mean, that was pretty bad. I remember the doctor at one point just seeing like the fear and like the stress in my eyes and trying to find a way to like talk to me about it. And basically what she said that kind of calmed me down was she goes, you're the least sick person on this floor. I go, okay. She goes, you will go home at some point. A lot of these people on this floor will not go home. You will go home. And I was like, okay, that is oddly comforting to me. And it was like she had to basically tell me other people were going to die for me to be like, okay, you're right. It's I'm going to be all right, I guess.
When my wife was in the hospital in a coma, I was there. She had contracted C. diff, which is this horrible fucking bacterial infection thing. And then they're telling me, okay, when you're going to go in there to the room, you have to do this, and then you have to dispose of all your clothes before, because it can transfer through the whole ward. And I had been drinking, so I wasn't paying a lot of attention, other than it sounded gross. But I tried to do, and what I ended up doing was the exact opposite of what I took all my clothes out to throw them away outside of the room, and they're like, no. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I was more worried about my wife than the rest of the people on this ward.
Yeah,
and that's probably how you got a staph infection, is someone down the hall that wasn't going to live spread it to you.
Some intern, some new doctor, some new nurse didn't change their gloves or didn't wash their hands and touched a thing and I touched a thing. I mean, I'm not like, I mean, I'm a psycho, but like I wash my hands a normal amount. I don't overwash my hands. So I just like to think I didn't.
Just so you know, I'm not taking it.
Whoa. Oh, wow. Look at you. You're a sweetheart. I would totally understandable if you want to pause for a second.
If you take that call, it's going to be an hour and a half.
I mean, fair enough.
Hey,
feel free to
hang on. Remember that conversation we had about cutting anything out, and if I have buyer's remorse?
Sure.
If that number shows up, I just showed the name, but make sure the number's not on there.
This video,
these fucking assholes that you put any picture, you put a picture of a cute puppy on fucking Instagram, someone's gonna forensically deconstruct it and find where like there's a Harry Potter book on the bookshelf. And first of all, I don't use that word, and second of all, it's my niece's room and it's her puppy. Like, what is your fucking problem? problem, you sea of narcs in this world.
So don't you worry about it. I would never. I wouldn't dare.
Audio only. Sorry.
Yeah, feel free to mention the podcast to him, though. He's got a pretty decent sized audience, and probably would help me a little bit. But just totally kidding. Dude, you're the best. This has been so much fun. I could talk to you forever, I think. We're coming up on an hour. I don't want to, You've been very generous with your time.
I don't know that I have much more to add. I love what you're doing. I love the premise. I think probably every day I could chime in a little bit more about death.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I'm not afraid of it like you are. It's just, it's like Las Vegas. The house has the edge, and eventually you're going to lose. And it's a matter of how much do I wager in the meantime?
Absolutely.
57. I'm healthy enough. I'm not fucking running marathons, nor did I ever. But so maybe should I lean into having a little bit more fun while I'm as young as I am, and not worry so much about the 70s or maybe, God forbid, 80s. How grotesque would that be? Old people creep me out so badly that I go, I want to die not today, but well before that. So it's just this balancing act and going, all right, well, what's realistic?
Yeah.
Shit.
No worries. I'm with you. I think a big part of my fear is like, I don't want to miss out on things. As dumb as that sounds, that's a part of the fear of dying. I want to experience more. I just don't want to die young. That's really my biggest fear. If I make it to 70, I'd probably be happy.
About your age when I did that bit where I said I think I was 38 or 39, where I said if I die now with the 3 at the front, they'll say I died young. But once a 4 is in the number, it starts with a 4. They're going to say, hey, he died a little bit untimely, something to that effect.
Sure, yeah, and I want to get the full experience. And
yeah, well, you start doing that now, because you're going to look like a way bigger dick if you die from fucking some stupid bacterial infection because you broke your leg, probably doing nothing you enjoyed. You're probably just trying to hop over a bus bench to fucking feed a squirrel or something. How did you break your dumb leg?
I was walking my dog. I was going down a hill that we go down every day for the past 5 years, and it just happened to be wet that day, and I just slipped and just rolled my ankle, and I just landed weird. I don't fucking know. My fibula snapped in half. It was a fucking nightmare.
Wait, which one's the fibula?
It's the one. It's the one on the left. The outside left of your, I don't fucking know. It's connected to your ankle. Yeah.
Not the big one. What's
not the big one. No,
femur. That's a femur.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Could have been either way. Bullshit. My dog tried to fucking ruin my life. He basically did for a very long time. It was pretty cool. But this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and you're welcome back on anytime, and hopefully we could chat about death again sometime.
Yeah, Doug@DougStanhope.com is my email if you're out there with serious comedy hospice opportunities. I hate that. That was me calling your dying loved one an opportunity. But
email Doug if your family members are close or near death and need to laugh a little bit. I'm telling you.
You shoot me an email when this comes out so I can promote it. I usually now I just go to Reddit. It's the least toxic, and there's not a lot of people follow me there, so I can actually talk to people on my Reddit thing.
Okay.
But fucking Twitter sucks, but I'll go on there to retweet. But I ain't answering. Look, I'm not looking at responses.
Not a big deal either. We'll figure it out. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.